All right, the time is now 6:29. The date is Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. We will take a roll call of the meeting. Jim Franklin's here. Megan?
Here.
Kalina?
Here.
Dot?
Here.
Marilyn?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
All right, 6 present. Please note that we are doing a hybrid meeting with in-person and virtual attendance. If a member of the virtual public would like to make comments during a public hearing, please use the raise a hand function on Zoom, and you'll be assigned a speaking time. If you're listening in via telephone dial-in, press star 9 to raise your hand, and then press star 6 to unmute yourself. This meeting is being recorded by the local scene, and a record of this meeting will be posted on the local scene website as soon as they are able. Anyone intending to make an audio or video recording of this meeting should notify the chair at this time. Hearing none. We have an announcement. The Kingston Conservation Commission is seeking a new member. Commissioners are responsible for protecting the town's natural resources, including through the enforcement of state and local wetland protection laws. Those interested should reach out to the Conservation Department by calling 781-585-0537 or emailing Matt Peneller at mpenella@kingstonma.gov. Matt, can you brief us on what we signed?
Yep, we have bills from Apex for Year 8 MS4 support for last month. We have MACC for Georgiana to attend a wetland delineation course. We have a DOA for 11 Grays Beach, voted at the last meeting. Certificates of compliance for 63 Christmas Tree Lane, voted at the last meeting. And OOCs for the Drew and Seaver Ave Stormwater Project, as voted at the last meeting.
Action items. We'll now open a public meeting to discuss the request for certificate of compliance for the Sampson Brook Restoration Project at Blackwater Memorial Forest off Winthrop Street, submitted by Matt Peneller on behalf of the town of Kingston. Matt, will you provide a briefing, please?
Sure. Yeah, this is the ecological restoration project that we did, restoring the headwaters of Sampson's Brook. This was a grant-funded project through the Department of Fish and Game's in lieu fee program. It was permitted through this commission. Construction went pretty well. Sumco was the contractor on this project, did a great job. Largely already seems to have hit a lot of our targets for what we were looking to do with the project. And other than some really minor changes, such as the bridges, where the water control structures were pulled, we had planned to build bridges across the new sections of stream. They just ended up being built differently than was originally designed. But the new design actually provided more span and more space for storm flow and wildlife passage. So from the commission's standpoint, it's minor. So if anybody has any questions, I can answer questions. Otherwise, I'd recommend issuing a COC on this.
All right, we'll open up the discussion to the commissioners. Any questions, any comments from that?
It's a very pleasant place to walk.
It is.
Agree. I think you did a great job. We'll open up to public if anybody wants to be heard on this. Okay.
And this would be issuing certificate of compliance under WPA and KWPR.
Do we need to close, or are we just?
No, there's no hearing.
Do I hear a motion to issue the COC under the WPA and KWPR?
I'll make the motion.
All right, motion by Megan. Do we have a second? Second by Marilyn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? All right. So that passes 6-0. All right. I'll now continue a public meeting to discuss the request for a certificate of compliance submitted by Beals and Thomas on behalf of the permit recipient, Adam Shoemaker, for construction of a dual-use agriculture and solar array system within the existing cranberry bogs at 126 Ring Road, DEP file number 0370890, and 131 and 137 Ring Road, DEP file number 0370889. Matt, could you brief us?
No update on this. They're still figuring their stuff out. So recommending just continuance it's up to the commission if they want to do the next meeting or 2 meetings out, whatever you want to do.
I'll make a motion to continue, what's today's date?
Today is the 12th, the next meeting is August 26th, the meeting after that is September 9th.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to push to the 9th of September.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by me, second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay. That motion passes 6-0. I will now open a public meeting to discuss the request for a determination of applicability for 48 Pondview Drive submitted by the applicant Stephen Haynes for removal of 2 trees within the 100-foot buffer zone to inland wetland resource areas. Matt, could you brief us?
Yeah, in June, we got an admin review request for removal of a white pine to the south of the house, and I approved that as a hazard tree based on its proximity to the house. I required a portion of trunk no larger than the distance between the tree and the fence remain in place. Then when we were on a site visit, the property owners also asked about 2 other trees behind the house, behind a pool area, that they would also like removed. I reviewed and determined that I could approve those. I could approve removal of one of the trees through admin review because it was leaning towards the house, but I would require approximately 10 feet of trunk to stay in place. The owners decided they'd like to fully remove both trees, so I just advised they'd have to file an RDA. They are both in the outer limits of the 100-foot buffer zone to, BBW associated with a pond behind the house, and they would be cut and removed with a large crane. The entire buffer zone there from the backyard fence to the pond is considered naturalized area, and the buffer zone trees do provide unique and important habitat value. The applicants are proposing to remove only those trees that are close to the house and on the edge of the buffer zone, which is in accordance with KWPR 8.01C1. So I recommended the commission should require that the stumps and root systems remain in place as they are on the top of the slope down to the pond. Leaving the stumps in place will help maintain site stability and prevent sedimentation of the pond. If the commission wanted, they could require replacement of the removed trees, but I don't think that's necessary. I commented while we were there that the area is really nicely vegetated with understory. It does look like, someone has been keeping trees from growing up in that area, but I'm not complaining about it because what's there is intact habitat. It's not encroachment of lawn or landscape plants or anything like that. It's a good heath understory. I can pull up pictures if anybody needs. I can answer questions, and we do have the property owners here tonight.
Do you want to just run through pictures real quick?
Sure. This is one of the trees right here, looking from the pool area. It's like impossible to manipulate this. Sorry. So to the left side there where I'm standing, that's the fence around the pool area. And we're talking about, I believe, the 2 trees that are in the right side of this photo, correct? Yeah. So one's pretty small, obviously leaning towards there. The other one's a little bigger, not necessarily going to reach the house, but surely if it came down, it's probably going to come down across the pool, wreck the fence, pool, all of that.
Are those the 2 that we're talking about tonight?
Yeah, this one
They
that's
just
up
wanted
right
to-
now is the one that was, I'm sorry, this one was a different one.
That was the out of jurisdiction.
Yeah, this one's out of jurisdiction. For a second, I thought that was one we already approved.
But on the previous photo,
Those 2 photos,
Those
those 2
two.
trees were the one that we're discussing
but you
tonight.
approved one, but they didn't want to leave the bowl. And so we're talking about bowl.
They didn't want to leave bowl for these ones. For the other one, they had no issue with the bowl.
Okay. All right, so these are going down, is it being ground? Or?
This was the tree that was removed through, or that was approved to be removed through admin review, so you can see the house there on the right-hand side, and that was the tall pine off the corner there, right in the outer extent of the 100-foot buffer zone.
All right, but the work here, are we talking about grinding it down to?
I think you're talking about
Stuff?
flush cutting these two
Flush
trees, just cutting them to the ground, with a condition for no ground disturbance, no stump grinding, no ripping them out, nothing like that.
And leaving the understory in place.
Yep.
All right, do you have anything else? All right, we'll open up discussion for the commission. Any questions from Matt? Open it up to the public, anybody want to be heard?
Yeah, I just got the tree services.
You gotta go up there.
There's
the
a
mic
mic
if you
up
like.
there, we can hear you, but nobody else can.
Stephen Eddings, 48 Pondview Drive. So I had Newcomb Tree Services come around to look at the two trees, and they've said that the two pines at the back right should be removed, one leaning towards the fence, and the other one will create property damage if it breaks. We've already had two pines break, one to the left, and that knocked out our R5 fence, and then we had another high pine to the right of the property that fell and crashed into the garage. These were the only two trees that he suggested also get removed to avoid any more damage.
All right, any questions?
Could I ask you, if you want to go back? What is the reason you don't want to leave the higher stump?
That's really more for my wife for aesthetic purposes.
Okay, because it does serve a purpose to leave it there. It'll rot away anyway.
Right.
It might take quite a few years. The dead dry wood serves as a home for birds to make their houses in, and lots of other animals to hide in.
It's very barren, that area.
You gotta be up.
You have to be at the mic if you'd like to talk.
Sorry. Gabrielle Haynes, 48 Pondview Drive. It's very barren, that area, like that would be noticeable. It's just a real eyesore. So, it is an aesthetic thing, but I'm not against like conservation of birds. We have plenty of them around us. It's just more that it's just going to be like they're two like sticks, and you want to leave them at 10 foot high.
Yeah.
Like to me, that's
Maybe-
it's just not
maybe Matt could
aesthetic, and it would
compromise
be an
and-
eyesore to us.
Maybe you could say a little bit less than 10 feet. That seems a lot.
Can you do? Can't we? Because we had the other ones that were potentially. We had some that were granted to us to take down from the town years ago, and they did. We were allowed to take them down to the stump.
Yeah.
There's plenty of trees there. We're not interfering with the vegetation there or the well-being of. We're very conscious of that.
Yeah.
But for us, I mean, it's just going to be like two sticks staring at us in the background when we have, a lovely, pond view and everything. It's just, personally myself, I would just like to take them down to the stub, not take them out, but take them down.
Yeah, well.
Matt, are these healthy trees?
In time, some of the shrubs around it will grow up to cover most of it. They'll get taller and they get more light when the trees aren't in the way. Again, it takes time. And maybe,
I would
again,
still like the town to
maybe we
consider
can
to
make a
take them
compromise.
straight down. The Newcomb's guy said to take them down, to the stump. So our preference is to do that.
So essentially, when I do admin review, if you have a tree that's growing in a naturally vegetated buffer zone, I will say, I will approve, and it's an obvious hazard to structure or somewhere that people generally
Right.
are. I will approve that to reduce the hazard by cutting it and leaving, generally, I say between 10 and 20 feet of trunk remaining standing for wildlife value and to minimize encroachment. So in this case where they said, well, I don't really want to do that, I just say, well, file an RDA then. I mean, there's nothing wrong with the commission approving removal of a tree, but the commission themselves, if they feel like in certain situations, can certainly mandate things like that. In this case, I mean, it is pretty clear that someone has been maintaining this area more than likely for Pondview. like not letting things grow back up. But again, in this particular case, I think that's actually a benefit. It's like when I talk about the power lines and how they cut a ton of trees,
Yeah.
but they create better habitat and more habitat diversity. This is a really good dense patch of blueberry and huckleberry and some of the heath species that provide for a lot of different species. So while I do think there's stuff going on there that is maintenance for the purpose of visual, and that is a part of what's being asked for right now with
Yeah.
not only the removal, but bringing them to the ground, I don't have a huge problem with it here. Generally, when you have a fence like that, all your maintenance activities tend to be, at least
Yeah,
your
if they are, I can't tell
high-level
from the
ones are
picture,
tucked
but
into the pool
if-
area.
If they are blueberries, are they high bush or
No.
you think they're low bush?
Yeah, nothing
Okay.
here will, I mean, I don't want to say nothing here will grow up, because certainly without disturbance, things there will grow up. So I suspect what will happen is there will be ongoing light maintenance of anything that would grow up and block the view, which
Yeah.
will keep it open for the heath species. So
Okay.
provided that you don't start seeing landscape plants popping up in there, or the heaths being continually mowed down and the habitat being degraded, then I
Which
don't
we-
have much of an issue with it.
Yeah,
to be
and we've
honest.
never done that. We've never, that's not in our plan. But these two trees, I feel like are hazardous to our property, and that's why we filed the RDA. But also, from an aesthetic point of view, we have taken the right channels, and I feel, it would be nice if you granted us that one thing.
All right.
Thank
And
you.
any other questions? All right. So it seems that we're in the, you said we're out by the 100-foot?
Yep.
So we're in the buffer zone pretty far out. Are we in agreement that this is something that we can allow on the RDA? And do we have a motion
I'll make that motion.
to allow the tree removal down to the deck?
To allow the RDA for the removal of the 2 pine trees.
So
Okay.
you're talking a -3 DOA.
Down.
-3.
Do we want any conditions for the process to be met? Do they need any?
I think just what I said about no ground disturbance, no stump grinding or other ground disturbance.
Just on that, I had stump stay, no mowing, and leave understory in place, which is,
Are they gonna need any machinery to do this, or just
They
gonna be a
said
guy with a
crane
chainsaw?
work.
Crane?
they said crane work, which would be
Okay.
outside the jurisdiction.
Outside jurisdiction.
Did you say it
okay.
was Newcomb?
Yes.
They've got an enormous crane that can park in front of your house and reach to the, it's gigantic.
Yeah, it's amazing what they can do with
Okay.
modern machinery. So would you accept those as conditions?
Do you want to give a certain stump height, like a few inches or a foot or something? Rather, I don't think it should be flush.
I think my motion was to take it to the ground.
Yeah, I think that was a request, but not disturb the ground. Is that your motion?
That's what it
Okay. So we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Marilyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
You abstained, all right. So we have a 5-0-1 vote. Thank you. Do you need anything?
Nope.
All right, that's a -3 DOA with conditions. A -3 is what you asked for. Okay.
Okay.
It's just some conditions.
Really
but-
appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
And you don't have to stay unless you want to stay.
All right, hearings now.
Hearings.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to a public hearing. Section A, 18 Smith's Lane, map 67, lot 82-1. It's a notice of intent. I will now continue a hearing for the notice of intent submitted by South Shore Survey on behalf of the applicant, Ronald Bernazzaro, for the proposed construction of a single-family house with associated utilities within the 100-foot buffer zone to inland wetland resource areas and the 200-foot riverfront area at 18 Smith's Lane. Matt, could you bring us up to speed?
Yeah, there's been some pretty good changes on this. Probably a good idea just to have a presentation for the commission.
All right. Please identify yourself and,
Hi, Samantha Cripps from PMP and South Shore Survey. I didn't bring a board. I'm not sure if we're prepared to share it on the screen.
I can pull it up.
Okay. I do have a copy, but I'd be holding it. So I believe where we left off was there was a site visit conducted. So I believe everyone's pretty up to speed on the current conditions of the site and the limit of disturbance that had happened historically without the permitting. So we have updated the plan. We've finalized some notes on removal of all of the existing impervious area on site. And we have also added a restoration area to the plan, a little over 2,500 square feet, which is roughly, or just under 20% of the lot. We are also providing a post and rail fence with conservation signage at the limit of the restoration area so that we have a permanent buffer and there's no further disturbance towards the rear. But I do want to note, even though the designated restoration area is roughly 2,500 square feet, pretty much the majority of the site will be restored with loam and seeds. So we did include some additional information on the riverfront degradation calcs, and it says that we're improving the site by about 4%, but if you look at, that there was past gravel embedded into the soil and whatnot, all of that will be restored with, subsoil, topsoil, loam, seed. So,
And that's
really
removing the existing crushed stone
yes.
across the site still, right?
Yes. Yep. So pretty much everything but the corner of the dwelling within the buffer zone will all be grassed and all be brought back into compliance. In the restoration area in the back, we're including 4 additional trees and I believe 12 shrubs alongside the natural mature trees that are back there. So, yeah, I mean, I believe we provided everything that was requested as far as calculations and information to the commission that was owed. The restoration area being roughly 20% of the lot. The lot is pre-existing non-conforming. The area requirement is less than half of that required in the zoning district. So I believe that that's a substantial offer by the applicant. But if there's anything else that, you guys would wish on this site, I'd be happy to discuss it with you. Yeah, if you have any questions, let me know.
Matt, why don't you jump in from there?
Sure. There was discussion at the last meeting about discovery of an abandoned underground tank, roughly 20 feet from the BVW. We saw that at the site visit. Property owner was able to open it up and show it to us, and said that it was a tank with no bottom that was used in the past for infiltrating water that was drained out of the concrete trucks. So it was something to get the water from just getting down into the ground. There was no bottom on the tank to really hold anything. There was water in there when we were reviewing it, because it was after this couple of big storms that we had. So being near the BVW, groundwater's pretty high. There was no smell inside the tank or anything. There was no indication that it was ever really used for anything disgusting or
Concrete structure?
dirty. No, I don't recall what the actual structure of the tank itself was. It had a collar, like a typical, what do you call?
Like a fiberglass?
Like has the typical metal lid on it with like kind of the concrete collar. Yeah, but I don't know what the actual tank was. It could have been metal. It could have been concrete, I'm not sure. It's dirty. It's been underground for like 50 years, so. The plan for that is to crush the tank in place and backfill it with clean soil. That is within the area that's proposed for buffer restoration, plantings, and seed. There was formerly an eastern restoration area proposed sort of close to the street and the outer extent of the riverfront area that has been removed in favor of this larger 2,500 square foot restoration area, which is much more appropriate based on also protecting the BVW where it really had no natural buffer. The seed mix and planting mix in this is appropriate as well. Actually, I did note that the seed mix should be swapped for a mix of species native to southeastern Mass, but I can follow up with them after about that. But all the planted species were fine. All the construction-related work will take place outside of the 50-foot buffer to BVW and outside of the inner 100-foot RFA. Remediation of the underground tank and installation of restoration plantings will occur up to the BVW edge. The site visit showed brush and yard waste had been dumped into the BVW over the years. Some portion of this should be removed by hand, while some would be less impactful just to leave it in place. My recommendation was removal of any lawn clippings or soil, leaving any brush or leaves in place to naturalize. It's important to note that a portion of that is not on the property, but it appears that that would be stuff that was put in there from this property based on access. So shouldn't be much of an issue removing some of that by hand. And like I said, proposal calls for removal of all compacted gravel surfaces on the property, which reduces impervious surface within the RFA and the buffer zone. We did get an area chart memo submitted with an accurate % jurisdictional coverage table for impervious surfaces, which is good. And that was all in compliance. So with the updated restoration and the reduction in jurisdictional impervious surface, I now believe this project proposes improved conditions as stated in the riverfront area regs. And it does, the updated plan shows an improved ability to protect the wetland interests through those reductions and restoration. Go through every little bit of this because some of it we've already gone over and it's very tedious. Proposed construction does not appear to encroach on the stream as the site was already partially degraded and nearly the entire lot has been cleared as long as aerial imagery covers. I also noted that the section of the riverfront regs on restoration doesn't necessarily apply here because the proposed work is in alignment with the other standards C, D, and E in 310 CMR 10.585. If it did apply, then the restoration area would be insignificant because it would need to increase beyond the square footage of the proposed limit of work within the RFA. And right now it's at 2,500 versus 3,500 within the limit of work. But as I said, that I don't believe is relevant in this case, and what has been proposed for restoration here is sufficient and meaningful in protecting the wetland interests. With that, I noted before that we didn't have any indication where the legally permitted yard would end, and there was no protection for the BVW or the inner RFA. As is proposed now, that's been provided. There is also proposed a fence, post and rail fence, separating the yard from the restoration area to have conservation placards on it. We have the condition for that in perpetuity. I noted that the commission may choose to require the standard 2 years post-completion of vegetative monitoring for a restoration area, because that was not provided with the application. I noted, as I said, that the seed mix should be switched with only species native to Mass, but it would also need appropriate cover crop or soil stabilization. That can be hydroseed as long as the hydroseed's kept out of the BVW, seed-free straw blanket, something along those lines. Just putting the seed down itself is not likely to have success. On the tree planting detail, I recommend removing the guy wires or supports, as they're going to be located behind the fence. They're unlikely to be removed after stabilization and will eventually girdle and kill the trees. At the same rate, it may be beneficial to plant smaller trees. Eastern red cedar was recommended here. They proposed 5 to 6 feet in height. It may be beneficial to plant smaller trees because they'll be able to stabilize before they reach that 5 to 6 feet height, and probably would be more resilient to drought and the difficult conditions you get when you plant things here. The post and rail fence detail calls for linear 18-inch long signs to be installed at every 4th panel. It would be more in line with typical conservation posts to just have the circular placards near the top of the post. I recommend that they be placed on the outermost post and then every other post in between. That is based on assuming that what's shown on the plan is accurate in terms of the number of posts, but that can be extended to every 3 posts if that makes the spacing more even with how it ends up being laid out. The perpetual condition can state every 2 posts with a caveat that alternate arrangement can be determined with conservation agency's approval. And again, my recommendation for removal of any of the lawn clippings or dumped soil from the BBW, leaving brush and leaves in place. And with all that, if the commission has no other questions, I would recommend closing the hearing and issuing orders of conditions approving the project with special conditions as listed up.
All right, we'll open this discussion to the commission. Any questions for either the applicant's representative or Matt? Okay, we'll open it up to the public if anybody wants to be heard.
Let me stop share so I can see hands. I see none.
So it sounds like Matt's recommendations is to issue a permit with the special conditions as described. Are we in agreement that we're ready for that? All right, do I hear a motion to close the meeting?
So I will move to close the hearing.
All right, we have a motion by Marilyn, second by Dot. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. All right, so we close the meeting 6-0. Do I hear a motion to approve the permit and issue with special conditions as described?
I'll make a motion to approve it with special conditions as described.
All right, we have a motion by Dot. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Marilyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. All right, so that motion carries 6-0 to issue the NOI, issue the permit for the NOI with special conditions as noted.
Thank you all.
Can I ask you a clarifying question before we move on?
Absolutely.
You can reopen if you feel necessary.
Sure.
I said the commission may choose to require the standard 2 post-completion years of vegetation monitoring, but
So
did
we
you,
can stipulate.
did you choose? You said special conditions as stated, but.
I thought there was, I heard that differently.
Yeah, I
thought
just
you had
said the commission, I said the commission may choose.
Okay, I thought we always chose for the monitoring, and it was always a 2 or 3 year.
It's always, it's
Yeah.
basically always 2 years, I just,
Okay. Is that your recommendation, 2 years?
yeah.
Are we in agreement that that was discussed in,
I think that's included in the recommendations from the commission.
Okay.
Special conditions.
I think we're
I was
all,
gonna say, I thought it
Cool.
was in special conditions already.
that's how I heard it.
Yeah. No,
My
like our
apologies if I'm
standard
mistaken.
special conditions.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
Awesome, thank you.
thank you. All right, we're going to move to Section B, 17 Old Orchard Lane Notice of Intent. I will now continue a hearing for the notice of intent submitted by Grady Consulting LLC on behalf of the applicant, New Orchard Realty Trust, for the raise and rebuild of a single-family dwelling within the buffer zones to various coastal wetland resource areas at 17 Old Orchard Lane. Matt, would you like to start?
Maybe Rick can give an update on what's different.
Sure. Mr. Grady, would you like to summarize for us?
Glad to. Thank you, Rick Grady from Grady Consulting, along with the applicant, Mark Guidaboni. Really, I think we had quite a few minor changes to the plan here. Notes were added to the plan stating that the 8 conservation placards could be attached to the post and rail fence, as discussed with the commission. Smart vents were added to the plan, although the lowest floor elevation is above the current FEMA flood elevation to accommodate future potential sea level rise, as we had discussed with the commission at the July 22nd meeting. The driveway and parking area were labeled crushed stone for clarification, and a detail was added to sheet 2 of the plan as discussed with the commission. A note was added to the plan for the deck so that the boards will be spaced a minimum of 3/8 of an inch apart, as we had discussed with the commission as well. A note had been added to the plan regarding to cut the 30-inch maple and retain the stump, as we had discussed with the commission. And the limits of the crushed stone were expanded to include below the deck, as we had discussed with the commission. On a follow-up, we had made some additional changes to the plan regarding the stream of unknown status, which has been clearly labeled and revised on the plan as the commission had requested. We made some revisions to the parking area, driveway area detail, so that the crushed stone will be gap graded as opposed to dense graded crushed stone. The crushed stone trench detail was revised to eliminate the reference to 3/4 inch crushed stone, so it simply says 1.5 inch crushed stone now. We did do a minor reconfiguration of the deck. It was squared off previously. The applicant requested that we connect the two squared off pieces, as the deck is proposed is really only 8 feet wide. So we would like to put a little angular piece on there, no closer to the wetland resource areas than previously proposed. And we changed the direction of the steps also, so rather than coming down to the lower elevation, they connect to the right there, where the grade will be a little bit higher, so a few less steps will be needed. And they'll be directed away from the wetland resource area as well.
Hang on just one second.
Sure.
Matt, I didn't see a revised.
I didn't see these ones either.
Yeah, I just went into the OneDrive and it's not there. These came in over the weekend, and I was able to get through and get the staff report done, but I guess I didn't drag the plan in, so I'm looking forward to pull it up now.
Okay. All right, just give us a second so
Yeah.
we can all look at it
Yep,
together.
no problem.
Would you like would it be easier for you if we got you a handheld and you brought the board up?
Or I can show you and not really speak until we get back to the mic, either way. Mark does have a hard copy there as well.
All right, we got it pulled up here.
You said this came in over the weekend?
Yeah, well, what happened is, we got quick updates after the last meeting, but I had some quick feedback on it. And then Rick sent the last stuff over on Saturday, and I wasn't able to really review that until today. And I missed that we didn't put it in the OneDrive. But this is what he's talking about right here. If you look on the screen, the proposed deck had come straight across to the porch on the previous iteration of the plan. So this kind of triangular area here was part of the backyard, and there was a landing right here at the top of the steps. So it was, instead of coming out of the porch to a landing going down, now the deck connects to the stairs to go down this way. And I assume the porch now opens up onto the deck through the left side here, right?
I actually haven't seen the architectural on that, so that might be more of a question for Mark, but I imagine it does. Is the
Yeah, so
proposed
you come
porch-
out onto the deck
Yeah.
now and walk
Yeah.
down here instead of it was before you come out on the porch to a landing, right?
And I want it the other way.
Yeah, and it came down to the ground here, so it just, yeah. And again, this now has the 3/8 minimum spacing spelled out on this part right here. So the other change that they made outside of what, had been recommended by the commission was there had been a single parking space here with one car garage parking under the building. They're now proposing 2 cars parked under the building with 2 parking spaces and added a 3rd space over here. So the retaining wall and walkway has shifted to the right, to make room for that second parking space, and then adding a space here. And the last part was fencing. They added a short section of fencing here, and I believe in this area here to tie in with the existing fencing that goes between the properties to make an area for a dog. And they changed the stockpile location from over here closer to the stream of unknown origin to over here, roughly the same distance away from the coastal resource areas, further from the inland resource area.
So let me just say what I saw on the original, right? So the original had one car garage underneath, and you had basement space. You didn't change anything about the footprint. Now you're sliding the retaining wall over, you're deleting the walkway, I think, maybe, or you're shifting it over?
We're shifting it over. We're still keeping it. Shall just do a little point. Matt's got it there too. So we've got it just to the right of the stairs.
Okay.
Entering to the porch here.
Yeah.
And then we just put a little L shape on it there. So here's the proposed walkway, slid over this way. Here's the parking space. Here's the fence. Retaining walls, we had two parallel walls here, one here, one here. And now what we're doing is a retaining wall here, 4 feet in height, or less than 4 feet in height. And then the second retaining wall is here now. So there'll be a gate in the fence right here, so they can get from the driveway area to the side yard. They can also get access from the porch to the backyard for the dog area, and set of steps heading up to the front porch.
So in the original, were we lawn to the right of the upper, I'll call it, parking spot? Is that what was originally there?
Yeah, so it was going to be lawn over there.
You said it was?
Yes, it was, yeah. So now we're eliminating some of that lawn. So basically, we had lawn there, we had the parking space here, and now we've slid that crushed stone parking space over here and eliminated that section of lawn. So less lawn, more crushed stone overall. The walkway was a direct shot in the front there before, and now due to a couple more steps, we'd like to just bring it over and straighten it and then over.
And then you just shifted the entrance over to the corner of the building?
Correct. Primarily to make space for the second car garage, which again, the approach will be all crushed stone. So.
Thank you.
He has his son interested in the house now, so they're refining some details for what his son would like to do there.
You want me now?
Are you done?
We are done, yes. Glad to answer any questions you may have.
So we now have on the plan and narrative and all that, everything that the commission requested in terms of notes or details, properly identifying all of these areas as pervious, from the deck to the parking spaces. I believe even driveway now is spec'd out at gap graded.
It is, correct.
Yeah,
yes.
so now we have a pervious condition for all of this proposal here, which is good. And all of that, if the commission's issuing orders of conditions, I would recommend special conditions for all of these things that would spell out that all of those were to be maintained in perpetuity, and that if anything became impervious, that they would have to do some work to fix that. Confirmed retaining walls holding less than 4 feet of fill. Retaining walls, again, did move further away from the inland resource areas, but are roughly the same distance away from coastal resource areas, so that variance request is still required. We did receive the variance request tonight. I did have a quick kind of cursory flip through it. Looked pretty good, but I'll get to that in a minute. The plan is now updated on the riverfront area buffer to specify stream of unknown status, 100-foot bank setback, stream of unknown status. No change in impervious surface. We're still going from 14.9 to 15%. It is the maximum. It's not going above that. A lot of this stuff was already discussed at the first hearing. Things about stormwater infiltration, a lot of that was explained in terms of what was there for sizing. And again, now having everything specified as gap graded stone really helps get stuff into the ground. The one thing that I pointed out during this time for review was the narrative makes a claim that the project meets the redevelopment standard of the riverfront area, 310 CMR 10.585E, by saying that the proposed work does not alter more than the existing degraded area. It's funny language on that. And again, we always get at the difference between what is degraded area when it comes to talking about riverfront area versus alteration. And I don't think that the regulations were written with this situation in mind, where you have a property that's been developed for a long time. But just specifically as that's written, I don't think this would meet that statute because the entire site's not considered degraded area. It's considered altered under the state and local buffer zone regulations, but in order for it to be degraded, it would need to be covered in structures, impervious surface, landfill, junkyard, that sort of thing. I measured anywhere between about 1,000 and 1,100 square feet for the original degraded area, which is basically the house and the shed. And I measured roughly 1,100 square feet of proposed impervious area. So you're not gaining anything in impervious area, but the statute reads that the area of proposed work shall not exceed the amount of degraded area. And the rough area of proposed work is around 3,400 square feet if you're talking the decking, the parking areas, and all of that. And it's significantly larger if you go by the limit of work, which we've had DEP before weigh in on saying that that is the standard for that. This property obviously would lack the area to mitigate that at a 2-to-1, which would be required in that standard under section G. I did say that the applicant should include this in the waiver requests that were still required under KWPR 5.23. We didn't get that as part of what was submitted. It's sort of debatable as to whether that applies or not based on what we're doing here. We're talking about not typifying a stream. We don't know if that's a stream, a ditch, what it is. So it may be that that standard actually doesn't apply at all. And as I said, I don't think that these standards were written for this type of a situation where you had a stream of unknown origin that has no natural buffer in existence, or it has several feet, but you're not making any changes to that area. So I don't know that that's a big deal, but I felt like I should point it out just because I don't think that it's necessarily true that it meets that standard. I just don't know for sure that it needs to.
Well, let's test that just a little bit more.
Sure.
So if you feel that it does not apply, or you feel that it does apply, one, depending on, what that review would be, I think we come to the same conclusion that the site is so limited that there's very little that could be done one way or another.
I sort of said in my recommendation on this that if that standard applies, this doesn't meet that standard. I don't know how you mitigate that on site. You'd probably have to do off-site mitigation for something like that. And I don't know that that's what this regulation was intended for. So if the commission was in a situation where they felt this was going to be a project that had some detrimental effects on the resource areas, and part of that was this, inability to show that you're not expanding the developed footprint within the riverfront area, and you deny a project with that, then you're probably going to get it appealed based on an unconstitutional taking or something along those lines.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments on that? I just felt like it needed to be said because I think the commission and our office is always trying to standardize everything and not necessarily treat things differently. I think in this case we are treating it differently because we're saying if you want to get into typifying that stream, then it's going to have to go through peer review because we're not going to be able to do that in-house. And you probably don't want to bother doing that for a project like this where there's already a house there, you're trying to replace it with a house and improve conditions for the wetland resource areas.
So is a defensible action here requesting the variance if we're in agreement that this project is something that we generally feel can move forward with the conditions that we can place?
It's how I worded it sort of earlier, is I would request the variance, you know, and the commission has the authority to issue the variance. The alternative is the commission determining whether or not that statute applies here, but I don't think that's necessarily appropriate, where when we were talking about not typifying the stream, it was sort of like you're already dealing with all the riverfront regs anyways, as though it is a stream. You know, we don't need to get into all the specifics of that, and I think the commission making a determination on whether or not that particular section applies here or not scratches at, you know, how would you do that without typifying the stream and knowing if it applies or not. So I think asking for the variance is the best case. I think that it would literally, so basically what we have submitted today is in depth. This is what we want from, you know, 5.23 in KWPR. It goes through all the variance criteria, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it goes through the required variance request information, 1, 2, 3. It does it for section 10.08 B5 of KWPR, which is wall-type foundation, and then it does it for section 10.08 B6, which is not going to the maximum extent from resource areas because of the zoning. What you're saying in the variance criteria between the two really isn't any different, and it would be no different than what you would put in that. You would just basically copy all of this onto another page. So I think it's something that
Is that something that you guys could produce?
I mean, I suppose, I guess what I struggled with was that I thought we were determining that it wasn't a perennial stream based on the notes we were putting on there and what was done next door and at the tennis courts, and I'm not sure
I think
any
what
of
we were
those
saying is we were gonna kick that can down the curb, and we weren't gonna say whether it was one or the other. And that was the gentleman's agreement that we can move forward without defining it if you guys aren't contending it one way or another.
Yeah,
That
I
was the
mean,
discussion.
whatever we need to do to get to the finish line here, I think is what we want to do. And I,
All right, so it sounds like we need, I don't know if there's gonna be more, but it sounds just based on that gray area that is something that we're gonna have to. So Matt, why don't you pick up?
Yeah, and I wouldn't normally say this, but I think that the commission, if they wanted verbally to request that variance tonight, it's literally going to be identical to this, then I think that it's still something the commission could discuss tonight and they could provide afterwards on paper.
yeah, we're amenable to that and glad to request it verbally and
I
follow
can
up
go
with the
through this
board.
whole thing in detail too about what specifically they're saying on this, but it does meet the standards of what we require for variances. It just doesn't have that standard in there. So it would be basically copying this a third time. But I'll get back to this section. Plan was updated to show the cutting of that large red maple tree and retaining the stump. I noted that the commission should discuss regrowth or maintenance as a special condition. There was talk last time about the potential for it being able to be pruned to select the strongest leader or just being left to grow naturally and do its thing. On the plan?
Yeah, I just want to see the driveway. Nice.
This pop-up's annoying. Go away. So, proposal moves the structure further from the resource areas than existing conditions, but significantly increases development of the property, as the existing house was coupled with a mostly vegetated yard between turf and natural vegetation. It does so in a way that's thoughtful of the wetland interest by minimizing increased impervious coverage. This is a 0.1% increase, but does put a structure in a likely compromising position relative to sea level rise. They did partially deal with that through the smart vent situation there too. And again, we're only talking sea level rise. It has met the standards right now of land subject to coastal storm flowage. We hinted at before potential special conditions about the prohibition of contaminant storage in that garage. I think it's something the commission should discuss tonight, potentially with the applicant, to see if that's something that's reasonable. Given that the idea of the smart fence is to allow water in and out during storm conditions, you have contaminants in there, then they're being brought in and out. But again, it's a garage. I don't know where else they're storing things on this property or in this house. So I don't know if it's a secondary containment situation or if there's nothing that can be done, but I thought it should be discussed. Everything else, fence was updated, detail on the plan, talking about the conservation posts. So that's really all I had in terms of anything really worth discussing here was what was already mentioned.
All right. We'll open it up to discussion. Thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt or the applicant from the commission? Open it up to the public if anybody wants to be heard.
I see nothing.
Is that a fair?
It is a weasel. And it's winter plumage. Winter coat.
So back to us, if there's nobody up there, will you raise the question of contaminants? So the question then would be, where would you store it if you can't store it there?
I mean, we're not opposed to a condition to that effect, that no storage of contaminants. Mark did suggest that if there was anything, a bag of fertilizer, fuel, anything like that, it could be stored on shelving up above the floor in the event there's ever any flooding. Yeah.
If you got a condition that all contaminants would be stored on a shelf no less than 4 feet from the floor, then
Just so it's covered. That's
that would probably be accommodated. We don't have a shed on the property, and we're trying to avoid one, so I would say that's a reasonable condition if you want to add it.
Sounds like maybe your son needs to store his fertilizer at Dad's house.
Well, we're not using any fertilizer, so I don't know why it would happen.
That's right.
Or pesticides.
Right.
All right.
Also, we have to figure out what, did Matt say we need to decide on what to do with that tree? Or what our best,
Yeah, discussion. I mean, I don't know if anybody cares one way or the other. I think it's more applicant preference, but it should be specified, because with no specification, you could say you can flush cut that with the idea that it's going to regrow, and then they can just go out every year and just whack at it with a hedge trimmer so that it never grows back. If they prefer it to grow back as a single leader tree or a couple leader tree, then you, over time, you prune to leave the, the strongest leaders there and go from there. Otherwise, if you don't care, you just let it grow into a giant shrub, basically, and eventually maybe it becomes a tree or some crazy multi-trunked thing. It doesn't really matter much as long as something specified that it has to regrow, but it's sort of preference as to where you could throw an option in there. You could just word it that, you're cutting it down, but it has to be allowed to regrow from sprouts, and if you want to identify the strongest leaders and prune for their growth, then you can do that.
For the
That's what I got.
Just a question on that, as far as the health of the future tree, if we're wanting to see it regrow, I suspect it's healthier if there's one trunk versus 30.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I don't know.
As long as they're all
Doesn't matter.
equal, I don't have a preference. I don't know if anybody does.
Preference?
Is there any preference?
Does the applicant have a preference?
Do you want to let it shrub, or do you want to prune it?
I would say the option would be fine either way, but I mean,
Why don't we-
keep it growing.
When we leave it as an option, so they can,
Yeah, as long as it's clear that
as long as
something
it's
has to
growing,
grow.
the intent is for it to allow it to have a shot.
To grow.
Easy enough.
Don't cut it anything less than 4 feet or something like that. That's fine. I mean, letting it grow obviously is the best idea. But sometimes if you let the single one grow, it might be structurally something that'll fall in the house. So it might be better to create the
I don't
bush.
think any of us are going to be here for that.
That's a future permit. Can deal with future permitting.
All right. Any additional things that we want to discuss? Are we in agreement that this is I'm sorry.
Do you want me to go back through the special conditions that we
Yes.
talked about last time, just for, last time I...
Let's ask Marilyn.
No,
Yes.
we're in the same place, so go
Okay,
ahead, Matt.
I was
Thank
just gonna
you.
say, other coast-appropriate special conditions are covering dumpsters when not in active use, immediate fines for trash found in the bay, no outdoor fertilizer or chemical use, and conditions related to mitigation area establishment, maintenance, and conservation posts in perpetuity, in this case, conservation placards on fence posts as an alternate as shown in the plan.
As well as what we discussed tonight.
Correct, and that was, well,
Keeping-
do you want me to go back through them again or not?
And you, no, I just wanted to make sure you did stipulate the special condition about the closest bank is marked, but we're not confirming the stream type, is that in the
Yes,
list?
yeah, we still had that in there as well, that
Okay.
it's now on the plan, but we should still specify in the
Right,
conditions
and
that
adding the-
you're not.
Gracious offer of shelving, whatever
Yeah.
might need to be shelved.
All right.
That just makes sense.
Is there any questions before we move to close?
No question.
Oh, if we're in agreement, do we have a motion to close?
Motion to close.
Second.
The motion by Brian, second by Marilyn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. All right, that motion to close carries 6-0. Do I hear a motion to perhaps approve and issue the permit with special conditions as
I'll
discussed?
make that motion.
All right, we have a
Second.
motion by Marilyn, second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. All right, so that motion carries 6-0. Thank you. Matt will be in touch.
Thank you.
All right, we're gonna step back
one action item left.
time here.
We got one more action item. On the floor.
All right.
Signature authorization.
Signature. I will now open a discussion among the commission to authorize the chair to sign all documents related to the sale of 83, or purchase and sale of 83 Wapping Road on behalf of the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, that would be purchase.
Yeah.
So, we're gonna sign a document tonight extending the closing from August 14th to September 14th. They're still dealing with the title issues. It's gonna require some things to move around a little bit. There's potential it might have to get extended again, depending on whether or not planning board timelines can be met. So rather, I think before we had done these one at a time, like give the chair the authorization to sign this document. So I just said, it's best just to have the commission give the chair the authority to sign any and all documents related to the purchase of that property at 83 Wapping Road. And that'll start with the signature tonight.
All right, we'll open this up to discussion, either the commission or the public. Is there any questions from that, any comments?
Are we signing something? I mean, something's unclear to me.
I'm sorry.
Are we signing something?
This is to see if it's okay, if you guys all agree that we only need one signature, and so I could sign on our behalf. This
Oh.
is something that we've discussed previously, and it just,
Okay,
the
right.
timeline keeps getting kicked out, I think. So he's looking to, I think, make it easier for future kickouts, because there might be another one, it sounds like. And it's just that we've already agreed that we're going to
Okay.
a certain thing, and we've done all the work, and it's just a matter of signing papers at this point. So if everybody approves, he's asking for me to sign on your behalf.
Instead of gathering at
And-
least four
Yeah.
Yeah, instead of having to go before the whole
Just to
commission to get
clarify.
the authority again, just any of the documents that need to be signed on behalf of the commission related to the purchase of the property at 83 Wapping Road, the chair would have the authority to sign off on those. So,
Just for context, we did that for CPC.
I'll make that motion.
All
Is that
right.
okay?
Yeah, who made the motion?
Me.
All right, Dot made the motion. Do I hear a second? Second by Megan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained. All right, so that motion carries.
Can I just mention something?
Yes.
Have you driven past that house the last week?
which house?
83?
There's no
Wapping
house
Road?
at 83, so it'd be the 79, you mean?
No, the house is being built.
Being built,
I think You're at a different.
Being built where?
You're
Am
on
I-
the old
am I
walking
mixing
road.
s-
Yeah, this is the,
Oh,
Conservation.
never
This
mind.
is a acquisition.
what is the land?
83 Walker.
Yeah,
From
I-
the old Carrera box.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
I'm talking about the house at 120 something.
Yeah. The one that we just authorized.
Oh,
I know which one
you're talking about 127 Wapping
Yep.
Road.
Yeah, I'm
They had
sorry,
the
I
NOI
guess, I
last
screwed them up
year.
in my head.
Yeah.
But
I
in,
haven't been by in a few weeks, no.
well, if you had, you would have seen the house arrive in 2 big boxes.
No way, really?
Yeah,
Huh, that's wild.
yeah.
Matt, we're going to move on to enforcement, start with 41 Clearing Farm Road, continued from an earlier date. Please bring it for us.
Yes, the owners hosted a site visit yesterday with Georgiana and I, with Brad Holmes from ECR, to discuss delineation that he had done and his work so far on a restoration plan. I kind of gave Brad some guidance on some ways I thought they should go with it. There are certain things that I think should be sort of left in place and not messed with. There are other things they'll have to remove. We talked a lot about, there's multiple vernal pools back there, and there's one of them that is obviously less significant and may potentially not meet the official wetland definitions of a vernal pool. Having said that, there's already been, development there that was allowed with conservation posts, so it's nothing trying to change any of that, but part of what he did there for review was to try to get at how much water that smaller pool would hold. And they're continuing to work on the proposal, so I told them not to bother coming tonight and that we would continue this because they are actively working on it. So I would say continue for at least 2 more meetings to allow them time to finish that restoration plan up for review, so you could either continue it to August 26th or September 9th.
You said 2 more meetings, so that would be September 9th.
Sorry, September 9th or September 23rd.
26th. Okay. Do we, I guess, Matt, let's just be direct about this. Is there any reason why we would go to the 9th versus just giving them more time? Is there anything, is time of the essence where they need 2 weeks to plant or whatever? Because if we don't think they're gonna be ready, then we should just push, so we're not just continue.
Right. Late September is kind of time to start planting, so if they had to plant some stuff, then the earlier the better. To be honest, one of the recommendations that I was giving them yesterday was go for conservation posts and passive naturalization after removing any, a little pile of gravel and a little stack of firewood and some planted apple trees and posts, like get all that stuff out, grade anything or remove anything that wasn't supposed to be there, and then just, stabilize it and step back, rather than introduce seed and introduce plants that are from different genetics or maybe different species, and do a couple years of post-monitoring. Pretty similar to how we did one on Bagnell, where it was like, more than likely there's enough seed bank here that this is gonna stabilize. It's gonna grow if you just stabilize it. And that one took, I think, almost 3 years before I went there and went, wow, this is fully restored now. And they did need to put some seed there, I think, on the 2nd year, but, I think there's certain situations where there's no downside to letting the natural seed bank and rootstock take over, and I think this is one of them. So it may not be problematic either way if you pushed it to the 2nd one in September.
All right, let's,
Going forward, will you still be monitoring it regarding species?
Yeah. Yeah, they would have that in the plan where it would be basically 2 years of monitoring and invasive species control. Like if you see mugwort or something like that, you're picking it out of there. The idea that you'll let the native stuff take over the area.
But I was curious as to whether there will be any more monitoring of vernal pool status.
It hasn't been discussed. We've got enough
Do you feel you have
information
enough
to
now?
certify
Okay.
the pools back there. The question is, the closest one that I was talking about before may not hold enough water for them to actually accept the certification. We found exactly 5 egg masses in there, so what it basically looked like was, probably one spotted salamander went to that pool, laid eggs. Both pools were drying and largely dry when we got there.
But by
That
virtue
was
of the
this
size
year
of
with the
the brook,
drought.
it wouldn't be sustainable.
But it may not be something that Natural Heritage would approve as a certified vernal pool. So what it likely is something that in certain years, maybe if you have an absolutely wet spring, it may provide enough habitat for them to succeed. But generally, it's probably a population sink. So.
All right, looks like we do have somebody who would like to be heard, if we can.
Looks like it's Jack.
Jack's iPhone.
Jack's iPhone.
Jack, do you want to unmute yourself and speak?
Was it how many years ago? Star 6 or Star
It is,
9?
the property owner did say that they could probably attend tonight through Zoom. They had some sports stuff going on, but I said, if you want to just kind of hang out and like pay attention through Zoom, you're welcome to do that. I said, but largely we're going to continue this.
All right, well, we're hearing nothing on our side, and we're going to continue. So I'll make a motion to continue the 23rd of September.
Second.
We have a second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. All right, so we're going to give them to the 9:23 for you guys to figure this out. And that passes 6-0. Matt, 164 Pembroke Street, continued from an earlier date, please.
Oh, can I just recuse while you do?
Yep, yep. All right, we'll note that Marilyn has recused herself from this discussion as a commissioner.
So 164 Pembroke Street is all set. We did a site visit on June 30th and observed compliance with the enforcement order. Conservation posts were installed as described and clearly visible around the edge between the lawn and the slope going down to the vernal pool. And the rear gate area was locked with clamps that are bolted on there the way you described. And he also had a sign made to put on that gate stating that no activity was permitted beyond the gate. So I recommend closing out this enforcement matter as the property owner has met all of the EO conditions.
All right, so is there any discussion from that? Either the commission or the public? Do we have a motion that's recommending closeout?
I'll make a motion.
All right, we have a motion by Marilyn, I'll second. All those in
You
favor?
said by Marilyn.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, it's Kalina.
Kalina, sorry. Kalina, I know your name, I promise. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we have one abstention. All right. Now, we'll note that Marilyn has her turn. We're going to move to 44 Rabbit Road. Matt, continue from an earlier date, please bring us up to speed.
Yeah, at the July 8th meeting, the commission received a signed contract with Merrill Engineering and Agile Engineering from the property owner. The engineers had a site visit scheduled for the week of July 20th, and then said that they'd need 2 weeks to draft a plan for the retaining wall. And then the property owner had reported their landscaper was coming that weekend to remove the chicken coop, and she had attempted to file an NOI to permit the remaining structures. Still hasn't officially been filed, but that's sort of not terribly relevant at this point. Commission had paused fines pending progress. We got an email from the property owner. The surveyors were on site on July 21st. Merrill estimated 3 to 4 weeks for the updated survey plan to be produced. Jenna reached out to them recently. They expect it to be done within about 2 weeks from now. Once that's done, the structural engineer will need 2 to 3 weeks to put his portion of that together. She had asked the landscapers to take down the chicken coop, and they misunderstood the request and removed an old well covering structure, which was something that would have been on the list for removal anyways. And they'll be back next week to remove the coop. She did send photos of the well covering area. It was roughly 3 feet by 3 feet of exposed soil at the edge of the lawn. Up above the house, she asked if it should be covered. I recommended throwing grass seed or straw down on it. So everything.
Is there an active well?
I don't have a good answer for that. There must be. There can't be water
Did they take down
out there.
the shed that's been keeping the wellhead?
I don't think so. I don't think there's anything here. It must have been an older structure, but she is online. She could answer that if you want. But beyond that, I was just saying this is clearly progressing, and that I'd recommend continuance of at least a month, if not 6 weeks, based on the estimates that she got from the engineers, and continuing the pause on the fine issuance.
All right, so 6 weeks would be when?
So today is the 12th, the month would be September 9th. You'd have September 23rd would be the 6 weeks out.
All right, we're going to open up the discussion to the board and to the public. Anybody wants to be heard on this? Any questions from that?
I have no problem extending it as long as we get documentation that that chicken coop is removed. In the meantime, or like even an email or a photo like she posted here, can she send us a picture when that's done?
Sure.
All right, is everybody okay with the 6-week timeline for continuance?
To the 23rd.
To the 9/23, yeah. Do I hear a motion?
I move to continue to September 23rd.
All right, I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Kalina, I'm sorry. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And abstained. All right, so that motion passes 6-0 to continue to 9/23.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Good night.
All right, Matt, we have 6 Prospect Street, continued from an earlier date. You bring us up to speed.
I think we have, well, we can go out of order. That's fine.
I'm sorry.
10 Innsbruck.
I'm sorry, you're right. 19 Blair Drive, continued from an earlier.
10.
Try again. 10 Innsbruck.
One more.
Do you not have it?
No, I have it. I
Okay.
flipped my thing over. I apologize.
All right, 10 Innsbruck.
10 Innsbruck Lane, continued from an earlier date.
Yep. At the July 8th meeting, the property owners reported they were meeting with Brad Holmes of ECR on July 17th for him to view the site and start putting together a plan. The commission had continued it tonight to give them time to complete that work. On August 3rd, the property owners forwarded an email from Brad summarizing the resource areas he delineated in the field, including a map. Brad had emailed Rick Grady from Grady Consulting, who were the engineers working with the owners on this outbuilding project, stating that the site is ready to be surveyed. Grady will survey the site and draft a plan that Brad can then use to create a restoration plan. So the property owners have made progress on addressing the enforcement issues and are now just waiting for the engineers and wetland scientists to complete a restoration plan. We recommend continuing for at least another month to give the consultants time to view the property or visit the property and complete the plan.
All right, we'll open up discussion, either by the board or to the public. Anybody want to be heard on this? All right, do I hear a recommendation? Do I hear a motion to continue to 9/9?
I'll make that motion.
All right, I have a motion by Marilyn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So that motion passes 6-0. 19 Blair Drive, continued from an earlier date. Matt, could you bring us up to speed, please?
Sure. Did we do a site visit before the last meeting? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, at the last
Yeah.
meeting, we talked about that Jason Bertner from CZM, Coastal Zone Management, had reviewed the site plans, including the proposed new armored revetment, and had reviewed aerial imagery of the site. He had concluded that the existing, what we're calling a revetment at the bottom of the property, is not a constructed coastal engineering structure from a regulatory perspective, and he basically said that it really wouldn't be a way legally that he was aware of to rebuild that revetment, which was being proposed as rebuilding of that structure that apparently doesn't exist, legally speaking. Since then, the property owner was trying to follow up with Jason, try to get Jason to a site visit. Jason essentially responded and said that they're very busy and they really don't work with property owners on designing their projects, and said that, you know, if they wanted to do that, the first step was to file with MIPA, and that during the process, if the Conservation Commission had a filing and they wanted to reach out to Jason, then he would provide guidance on that. So that put them back to the drawing board a little bit, and I did get a voicemail yesterday and spoke on the phone today with Paul Brogna from Seacoast Engineering. He is working on a new restoration plan without any revetment considerations, and says it should be available for staff review next week. Also, given that I'm not going to be in next week, so I don't know. He recommended continuance to the 26th. That's still entirely possible. You know, if we have something in next week and I can review it when I'm back on the 25th, we could still talk about it, you know, at that meeting. So, I don't know. It's up
Will
to the
that allow
commission.
you enough time to look at it?
Maybe, maybe not.
I think a cleaner would be just to push to the next
Right.
meeting.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what's that, the 9th then? on
Yeah,
September
That'd be
9th?
9/9, right? Let's just open it up for discussion. Anybody have anything for Matt? Any questions? Any of the public like to be heard? All right, do we have a motion to continue to 9/9?
I move that we continue to September 9th.
All right, a motion by Marilyn, second? Second by,
Do you want me to send an email on that?
Kalina.
That's nice.
We're going to take a voice, roll call. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed and abstained? All right, so that motion carries to continue to 9/9, 6-0. All right. Matt, it looks like 6 Prospect Street. Could you please bring us up to date, continued from an earlier?
Yep, we're still issuing 4 daily fines, $300 per fine, so $1,200 a day for noncompliance with the EO for the 3 different specifications or action items, and for the unpermitted septic system. I haven't issued a batch in probably a couple weeks, so we'll be getting to that eventually, but we have an appeal date of September 14th. Brian had appealed the fines to the clerk magistrate. So September 14th, we'll have an understanding of whether the magistrate's going to uphold the commission's fines or not. We really hadn't had an update from Brian in a while until today. Yesterday, I got an email saying that the engineer that he was trying to work with would not be quoting the job. They basically emailed and said, sorry, we're too busy, we're not going to take it. So Brian emailed me just saying, hey, this is crazy. You know, the chair had said previously that he had some recommendations for companies. Can you let me know any companies that I can reach out to? So I just told him that I hadn't heard anything back yet, and that, you know, he could come to the meeting tonight because it was going to be discussed anyways, and that maybe the commission, you know, or they could tell me to send him a list of people that were, companies that we're aware of. We certainly don't ever recommend anybody. We have our usual list of things that we hand out to people so they have the local options, but in terms of dams and culverts, it's not necessarily the local options. So,
Right, and just the only, you know, thing that I add to that is that typically when you get a specialized type of need, you would reach out to the engineers and see who they would contact.
Yeah.
It's not that we know everybody, it's just
Right.
we know people who might know the right people. So
right.
that would be the, you know, if we're just passing along contact information, there's no recommendations, right?
Yeah, and I would just, for the commission, you know, I give all this to update the commission. I don't think in a situation like this that the commission wants to get into too much discussion about this property. At this point, we've issued probably around $50,000 worth of fines. So, I mean, the chances that something like this could go into litigation someday are probably high. So, yeah, it's still something that I'm working through with town council. And if the commission, I don't know, ever wanted to have a discussion in executive session about it in the future, it's something that we could do. I just don't really want to get into too many specifics about the property. But that's the update for now, is the daily fines are still being issued, and he's now asking if we have any, information on potential engineering firms. And one of the things I told him was, if you can provide a list of who you've already contacted, that would be helpful. I don't want to.
So it won't be redundant?
Yeah. And I will say that through the email that was forwarded through that chain, I think the chair or the commission had a question in the past as to whether this particular firm was hired by him or hired by the state, and it was clear through that it was an engineering firm that was hired by DCR to review and inspect high hazard dams across the state. So it was a convenience thing where they were there, and he was trying to get them, because they were there, to see, hey, will you take on this other contract with me to review this? So for background, that's where that's at.
All right, so we'll move on.
Could I just say one more thing? Wouldn't it be prudent to explore the possibility of an executive session with town council? Or do you think that's not necessary, and just to keep?
Probably not necessary at this point. I would say for now, continue, and really what I think you want to see is how the magistrate hearing goes, for starters.
Okay.
This is just an update. It's not actually a hearing, it's not actually a meeting, it's just an update.
I think you just carry this one at every meeting, as obnoxious as it is for nights like tonight to have 8 enforcement items on the agenda. I think this is one that's just going to have to keep carrying on every agenda until it's dealt with one way or the other. And if at any point I think it's in the commission's benefit to have an executive session on it, then I can recommend that.
Any other questions for Matt?
No.
So in that sense, you just continue this to August 26th.
Make a motion to continue to August 26th.
We have a motion from Brian. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Kalina. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right, we'll continue. Matt, looks like 106 Elm Street. Could you brief us? This is continued from an earlier meeting.
Sure. This was passed on by the Health Department. They had information that the septic system on the property had been in failure since at least 2018 under previous ownership. When first recorded, notice of failure was provided to the property owner. We had back then the health agent and building commissioner on site observing flow over land towards wetlands. The health agent contacted the current, so the property somehow sold since then without going into compliance with Title V. The health agent contacted the current property owner on May 4th, 2026, informing them that records indicate the system's not been repaired and repair needs to be performed as soon as possible. Because there were wetlands just behind the house, we sent the notice of violation by certified mail to the current owner on July 27th, informing them that the failed status of the septic system violates WPA and KWPR and is likely causing contamination of the nearby wetlands. The notice invited the current owners to speak to the commission tonight. Health Department indicated they've been unable to contact the property owner by certified mail and had only been able to do so by constable delivery. They actually sent out a constable delivery yesterday, on Monday, so we just included a copy of the NOV and the enforcement guide to go along with their stuff on Monday. And I think, do we have the property owner here tonight?
I've actually spoken to Joyce several times.
Just
Sorry,
for the
just in the
record,
microphone and, sorry.
Let's speak into the mic. We need you to identify yourself and your address.
Okay, so I'm Russell Sharp, 106 Elm Street. I've spoken to Joyce a couple of times about this matter. I started working on this, as I just spoke to her, about 5 weeks ago. I had called a company to come out and delineate the wetlands to the property, and had a septic company and an engineer both come out, who I'm glad that I'm here because they were both very puzzled at the state that the town says the septic is in, because they both say there's nothing wrong with it and it's working as designed and working fine. So they both said to me, why would you replace this? I said, well, the town says it's in failure. And they said, it's not there's nothing wrong with it. And they said, you know, have you had any problem in the 3 years that I've owned the property? I said, no. I had the previous owner pump the system before I purchased it because I didn't want someone else's full septic.
Right.
And since then, it's never overflowed, it's never smelled, there's never been an odor, there's never been any issue. And I've just spent $300,000 redoing this whole house. I'm not going to sit in a home that it is my dream house, on a septic system that's leaking into my screen porch. It's right next to it. I'm outside 90% of the time. It's not something that I'm not going to address. So I'm puzzled, the engineer's puzzled, the septic company's puzzled.
Can I
We're all
follow up a
puzzled.
little bit?
Yeah, please.
I guess for starters, following up with Joyce more recently would help with some of that information, but did anybody do an inspection, like a Title V inspection on it? So they said they've looked at it and they're puzzled, but has anybody inspected it?
They said to find out from the town exactly what the official Title V report says, that they're telling me why it failed, name and license information of the inspector, to formally ask the exact section of 310 CMR, what the system violates, the specific condition that constitutes a failure, whether they are requiring complete replacement, repair of particular component, or an upgrade to the existing system. A copy of any written order, notice, or violation, any written or photographic evidence of what they saw was the failure at the time of the report.
All right, so there's going to be a Title V report that was done through the inspection process that triggered this whole discussion. And from what you said, it was a while ago, correct?
Yeah, that's the thing about this, is old. So
How
that's
old?
where information helps, and thank you for coming tonight and responding to this, because from the commission standpoint, what we want is information, I guess, to the contrary of what we have. So if you have information that the Title V is perfectly fine,
So
and
if
it
I got a
passes-
Title V and it passes, hooray.
We gotta,
my
we have
question-
to see what it was, because there's a lot of things that can happen, right? So somebody says the D-box failed, and it's clogged or whatever, or there's one of the lines in the leaching field isn't leaching anymore because it's, old, right? At some point, there's a component that can be replaced or repaired, or it's gotta be all done because that's what they said. So without us seeing the actual report, we don't know what that is, and it sounds like when did you move in?
3 years ago.
Okay, did you buy the house 3 years ago as well?
4.
4, okay. So this
Took
predates
me
your
a year,
ownership.
because I redid the whole entire house. It was
Okay.
basically
Did you
condemned.
do any septic repairs?
No.
Okay. So there is a thing where people sometimes will do repairs without actually bringing in the Title V licensed guys from the town, and they might have done the repair, and it might be there, but it might have been unpermitted type of work, where Board of Health wouldn't have that this was fixed or addressed. So we can't speak to any of that, but that is a very real thing that happens in the world.
Sure.
So when you ask us, we don't know.
Yeah.
But Matt, I'm sure, can kind of ask some more questions, and we can get a little bit more too. But everything that you asked for will be in that report, because if there was a Title V submitted to the Board of Health, that report is standardized, and it'll have the copy of the guy's license at the end of it, and it'll say what part failed, and
Great.
all the observations. and all
That's
that
how I
stuff.
can move forward.
Well, that's the issue right now, is that the Board of Health or the Health Department comes to us and says that they have a property that's out of compliance, it's been out of compliance for a long time. They did say that they had gotten in touch with you, but that it had been a while and they hadn't heard anything back from you. So they're under the impression
I
that...
didn't know that I had to report
But
to her.
there's still an impression by them that the system is out of compliance and that there's a potential wetland issue because of that. So from our standpoint, the commission's going to be happy to hear that it passes Title V and that there's no issue. Their second question would be, was there unpermitted work there? Either not necessarily by you,
Yeah.
potentially the person who sold you the property, rather than going down the right channels, maybe just pop something else in the ground there.
Sure.
So
I mean,
right now, we just want information.
My well is, 150 feet away from my family, my pets. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not going to have sewage leaking I have the water tested every year.
We're not judging you by.
No, but I did think it was funny for somebody to like, it seemed funny for somebody to live there for 8 years, not you haven't lived there for 8 years, but that for 8 years, that condition had been that way, like, because it smells when that
Right.
happens. So, yeah, I would say, I don't know how the commission wants to deal with this, continue this for a little bit, and have you follow up with the health department. I
Sure.
think you don't want to, maybe they didn't say there was a specific timeline that you had to come back or anything.
Yeah, I mean,
but
all this, that.
they're there every
information
day.
That I've just given you has all transpired in the past 2 months, so.
Yeah, I would say get all that information to them as soon as you can so that they can give you feedback on it. And if it meets all of their standards, then come back to us. We have all the information, we can go from there.
Okay,
Sound good?
great.
All right, so what do you think, Matt? Give it a month?
Sure.
All right. Do I hear a motion to continue to 9/9? A motion from Megan. Second from Marilyn?
Sure.
All right, well, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained. All right, so that motion carries.
Can I get an email? Do you have an email address that you use?
Sure, russellsharp@me.com.
2 S's, 2 L's?
You got it. Yes, perfect. All right, thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Matt, 27 Seaver Avenue. Can you brief us? Is this a first?
Yep, first one, just when we went to do the commission site visit to review our Rocky Nook Stormwater project at the end of Seaver Avenue, we had a couple of commissioners present, and we observed an excavator parked next to the building at 27 Seaver Avenue. There was concrete work that looked recent on the existing revetment or seawall, and exposed soil in the lawn on the seaward side of the house. Everything was obviously in jurisdiction. We didn't have any permits on record. So we sent a notice of violation, and we had Betancourt and Sons was lettering on the side of the machine. And we had one of the property owners call the Conservation Department on August 3rd with questions about the NOV and the enforcement process. And I think we have some people here tonight, maybe in person and online.
My name, I'm Joe Wagner. I'm one of the family owners. And my cousin, with the R there, that's my cousin Ruth. I think
She's the one who contacted us.
Yes, yeah.
Just for the record, your address, please.
Say again?
We need name and address.
A name and address?
No, just.
Your name and address.
Your name and address, just for the record, because this is being
Oh,
recorded.
my resident address or the address we're discussing?
Where you reside. So
Okay.
if we need
So
to.
my name, Joseph Wagner.
And just an
Your address?
address.
9076 Clendenin Way, and I'll spell it for you. CLENDENIN Way, and that's Frederick, Maryland, 21704.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so I wasn't able to send pictures in, but I brought some pictures to show you what the state of the wall was in after the winter. I'll hand them to you.
Yeah, I can pass them
And
out.
then we have reseeded what was the ground that was torn up. So that's an existing wall. It's been there roughly 80 years. And we've had to repair it and maintain it over the years. About 10 years ago, my cousin Ruth, who's right there, she worked with someone on the commission when we had a big hole in one side of the wall. I think his name was Dana Dupree or Dupierre. He worked with us, and at that time he said because it's maintenance, we did not need a permit. And we were very concerned, if you see the state of the wall, that we were going to have a bigger problem if we didn't get it fixed quickly. But we did not believe that we were in violation of anything at the time until we got the notice. But the excavator was there with Betancourt. It was there to move existing rocks and arrange them in front of the repair on the front of the wall. So there's no new rocks, nothing like that. So the excavator actually kind of tore the lawn up. That's what it was. It wasn't really earth moving for the lawn itself. It was that the excavator was there. So then I've reseeded it since then, and you can see it's coming in. So I don't know what we need to do to make this right, or how we fix it. But
Sure.
Just to quickly get at some of this stuff, because there were times former Commissioner Dana Dupuy would every now and then come down to the office and say, hey, I got somebody I need to work on a little revetment. Do I need to get a permit for this? And I had some pretty specific guidance on that sort of stuff, where like, if you're talking about somebody mixing up a tiny amount of cement in a bucket and going and pointing something,
Which we saw.
you don't need a permit for that.
At some point.
You know, if you're gonna go extensive and you're gonna be moving, to put it lightly, if you need an excavator or a piece of machinery, you need a permit. And partially for the reasons that you mentioned, that it rips up the lawn, in those photos and the photos that we had, ripped up the lawn, and then you get big rainstorms and any of that soil. I mean, to be honest, I went down the next morning after a big rainstorm and I was happy I didn't see any big movement. We would have had pictures of big cuts, and the commission probably would be pretty upset about having work like that done without any erosion control in place or anything like that. Having said that, moving rocks below that or around that in itself with a machine would need a permit. So more specifically for you, if that's your company, should know that you need permits for that type of work. And if you're gonna do that in Kingston, I highly recommend reaching out to my office to make sure that whatever you're gonna be doing doesn't require it. So that's what I got as far as whether the commission wants retroactive permitting or any of that sort of stuff. I don't really know. It looks somewhat substantial based on the amount of work that would need to be done to fix that.
Let me just jump in a little bit on that, and I don't know if the contractor wants to come up. From what I saw, this wasn't swallowed concrete on the wall, that maybe some of it came down and you guys just mixed up some mortar and parched it out. This looked like you put in a new footing, new rebar, and I suspect you're rebuilding some kind of wall. Wasn't there, I can't say, but I see pictures with what looks like a new footing and new rebar. So why don't you walk me through what the scope of work that you guys are completing on that wall is, so that I can have a better understanding.
Sure, yeah, it was, and I'll let Rod speak to the specifics, but basically it was really the vertical face of the wall, really around the whole house, getting that shored up very strongly, because it's just an old wall. And I can let Rod speak if you got questions as to.
So my name is Rod Betancourt.
Your address, please.
611 State Road in Westport, Massachusetts. We started off by removing all the old debris, rocks and whatnot in front of the old wall, the existing wall. We got all that out of the way. We just went a little below the existing wall for other minor reasons. We put epoxy coated steel every foot, square foot, make like a basket, set our forms, poured our footing, took the same forms, drilled into our new footing where we could drill in or put the epoxy coated steel inside the existing wall where the holes were for the new concrete, and that's pretty much how we did that.
Okay. So what was the thickness of the wall that you poured? What was the thickness of the footing that you poured? And just give me dimensions off, say, where the face of the old wall would have been.
12 inches we went out seaward with the wall, and the footing kind of goes like this, so it's 2 to 3 feet-ish, the footing.
So we moved 3 feet into the resource area, and that with the footing, and then 12 inches off.
I have to measure it. I'm just guessing.
Rough speaking.
I'd say 8 feet. But that's the base of the footing.
And then height-wise, you came up to the top, or you went higher?
No, I went lower, actually.
Okay, so it's stepped down?
Yes.
Okay. What's, based off the height of the existing wall, what was the height of the new wall, plus or minus?
Minus 6 inches.
So you're 6 inches lower, but you basically poured a new wall and footing in front of the old wall?
Yes. Yeah. A lot of it went into the existing wall to reassure the old wall that that doesn't rot and fall apart eventually.
All right, and what happened with the stones? You cleared out large boulders, I suspect, and
I took
then,
all the stones that were on the beach that were scattered in front of their wall, and I just pulled it all up in front of our new work.
So, couple things on this. One, sort of the reason why this was brought in front of the commission, just that, I mean, obviously, we had the commission right there, so it's not, every enforcement thing is a threshold issue. This one was pretty easy based on proximity to the resource areas. If we don't take action on these sort of things, specifically in an area where you have a lot of houses in a coastal situation, then why does anybody get permitting for anything, right? So that's kind of why we bring these things forward, to make sure that things are in compliance. There's an existing revetment there on a structure that predates basically Blizzard of 78. You have the legal authority to rebuild your revetment wall to protect your house and property with the proper permitting. Especially in a situation where you're not just talking about filling a couple cracks, you're talking about you basically re-engineered the wall, you redeveloped the wall and did it without what the commission would usually require, which would be a notice of intent with all of the engineering. We've had some issues before where people did revetment work even with the proper engineering, but encroached further than they were supposed to onto the coastal beach, and then couldn't get a certificate of compliance and had to go through a whole long process of mitigation. So I think what the commission would want in this situation is what you just asked for, but on paper and stamped. You want to see what the pre-existing condition was and what was just done, and see that what was done is actually something the commission would have approved.
so my main concern is this, right? We can, generally speaking, you can build anything. It's just whether or not it's going to be appropriate for the area. Now, you guys already moved inward to the resource area, which is typically a no-no, right? And then there's no, as far as I heard, there's no engineering work from somebody like a coastal engineer who would know how water flows, and you guys very easily, or not, could have created a condition where what you did will actually worsen the force against what's around there now. So if there's angles, right, and dissipation that is built into this type of work when it's done by an engineer. If we just put a flat wall up against it, that's usually not what they do. It's usually got some kind of component, because they're trying to re-angle that wave force so that it doesn't become an issue that undermines the wall and then it tips over, and now we got two walls essentially. So from that perspective, Matt, that's my main concern is one, we have encroachment, and then two, we have something that maybe isn't even, properly designed for the area that it was constructed on. So I think it's a little bit more than just getting it, a structural engineer. I think we want to know that it's appropriate for the location on top of the structural side.
It appears to me like this should have been an NOI filing, and with that NOI filing, you would have a requirement for survey grade, stamped, signed plans, and a narrative that explains how all of that work meets all of the local and state wetland regulations. So if this were, and we couldn't really tell from being on site that day what specifically was done, but if it was simply a little bit of refacing concrete work, potentially
We couldn't see over, we were in the end of the street
Yeah.
looking at the machine.
So you could tell there was some concrete
Right.
work done, but you couldn't see what was on the other side of it, or we didn't see what was on the
You
other side of
mean
it.
like the original wall?
I mean, we just couldn't see the extent of the work. So I think if it was simple, kind of repointing,
'Cause there was
refacing,
some that
you
looked
might
like
be
that.
able to get this done with some, like an RDA in retro. But I think in this situation with the level of work, you're talking about an NOI in retro, and you're gonna have to have the engineering done, and you're gonna have to have the explanation of how everything meets the regs and make it easy for the commission to approve the work in retro. And then everything is good going forward. But if it doesn't meet the regs, that's where you run into the same issues on the situation I was just talking about, where if you have that encroachment that wasn't allowable or wasn't mitigated or however that would work, then you run into bigger issues with the commission actually approving that in retro.
Because you basically built it where it wasn't supposed to be.
And didn't
added
build
the
it right.
rocks when you mentioned the
Like we
flat
didn't
surface
build it
and the
right.
wave action. That's those rocks.
It's not rock, I'm just explaining, I'm not saying that I understand it enough to say that's okay, because there's a science to it, and we're
I
not.
go to other towns and explain how walls are built, actually.
Yeah.
I've been doing it since 1999.
Perfect. So just talk to the engineer, and we're gonna need something a little bit substantive, because this wasn't just parchment out, spall concrete, so.
Yeah, and you can see by the state of the wall, especially after this winter, hard winter, we were very concerned it was we're gonna have the front lawn end up in the ocean, so.
No judgment. I mean, we run into this all the time, and really, there's a law, and we're here to make sure that
Sure.
we're within the law, and what you did was outside of what the prescriptive path is. So we need to bring you back into the prescriptive path, and in order to do that, we need to hit a certain threshold.
Okay, so I want to make sure we follow up. We need to speak with an engineer that you all have.
I think.
No, essentially, the way this process would work is the commission would talk about issuing an enforcement order. The enforcement order would tell you that you have a set timeline to file a notice of intent for the work that was done. And the notice of intent requirements call for survey grade plans, so you need an engineer to put that stuff together. Specifically with a revetment wall, you need some sort of a structural component to that as well. And a narrative needs to accompany the application that specifies how that work meets all of the Wetlands Protection Act of the state, regulations that are relative to it, and all of the local Kingston Wetland Bylaw standards for coastal revetment work or any of the work that was done. And if you get all of that in and everything looks like it meets all of the standards, then it's a simple approval in retrospect. They give you a permit for the work that you already did,
Okay.
and then you file for a certificate of compliance to close the permit out. If you don't get that work done by whatever the set date is, and you don't communicate with them and let them know why that can't be done by that date, then they start issuing fines daily until that
So
work is done.
you'll send like a follow-on letter to us?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. But basically what it would be is you're gonna hire an engineering firm, basically, probably at a basic level to do the engineering work on that. Generally, in these situations, people hire them to put the whole filing together, because notices of intent can be more complex. If it was a simple RDA filing, a lot of homeowners will handle those themselves. Notices of intent, there's nothing that says you can't do it yourself other than the engineered plans requirement, but it's complex, and we don't accept it if it's not complete.
Okay.
So we can follow up. with all
Are there
those.
recommendations of firms?
We don't recommend,
You don't
but we have a list of the
Okay, yeah. if you-
usual suspects.
That would be good. I appreciate that. And so we'll hear from you, and then I'm an out-of-state owner, obviously.
Sure.
Family's from here. That's how I end up with it. But can
Who is
I
it?
have?
Who is it? And you don't have to this is a public recorded meeting, so you don't have to say things like email addresses or somebody else's address publicly. But before you leave, it would be good for us to have whoever this contact should be going to, because we have
Absolutely.
who we sent it to, who's the owner of record, which was sort of a trust.
Yeah,
Whoever's
yeah.
going to be responsible for this from the ownership group, or everybody. If you say everything has to be sent to multiple people, that's fine too. Email addresses are helpful, because usually what we do when we have these official documents, we send them out certified mail or through constable delivery, but we also send them by email so you get them immediately. And it just gives you more time to be able to work on those things.
Okay, yeah, and I guess we'll give it to you.
Yeah, if you want to even just write it down on a piece of paper over here before you leave, that's fine.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And I do, this was a kind of a two-phase project. If you look at the top of the wall, we're gonna, and obviously we'll stop now because we gotta figure this out, but Do we put that in? What it is you see that the top of the wall is going to be capped, because that's also old concrete. That's, you know, cap it and go up maybe little less than a foot. And those pillars that are there, that'll kind of secure them, and then he would just do minor stucco work on the top of the pillars. We don't want those tumbling into the ocean.
If that's work that you want to do as part of this, then you would have them wrap that all into the notice of intent. The notice of intent would cover the work that you already did and the work that you propose.
Okay, I appreciate it. And any idea what the cost is for the permits? Is it generally the upper end, or?
The cost is often in the engineering.
In the engineering,
Yeah,
okay.
the biggest cost is in the engineering, and if you're having the engineering firm or a wetlands firm or whoever put the filing together and do the detailed project narrative and everything, you know, there's decent cost in that too.
Okay.
But in terms of, compared to the cost of the permit, I think this falls under single-family house project, it's not terribly substantial.
Okay. Yeah, and could I come up?
Permit fees is hundreds, not thousands for
Yeah.
this type of project. For bigger projects, it can get up higher, but it's the engineering fees that do that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the youngest of the bunch, and I'm retired, so.
Congrats.
But yeah, if you can get us email address or email addresses and addresses where correspondence should be sent, then we'll definitely follow up with this, and then the commission should just discuss what you want for timelines on something like this. Given obviously the site, I don't know if the site's fully stable now, but it looks like there's straw put down and you put down grass seed.
Yes, yeah.
So and like I said, I didn't see any soil move, thankfully. We got a really big rainstorm. That was the night that we got caught in the lightning on the way back from that site visit. So we know there was big rain that day, and I went back the next morning, I didn't see anything move, which was good. So we expect at this point the site is at least somewhat stable, so it's not that you're requiring this work immediately in order to, and it's not that, I think even if it was not engineered, like built in a way that was not advisable, it's not gonna fall into the ocean in a month or two. We're talking, I think in this situation, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of a longer timeline. And then maybe we can get off of the September 9th, September 23rd, date that everything else has been.
We should be able to Zoom on that. I'll be back in Maryland.
Hybrid meetings are always allowed.
Okay, good, I appreciate it.
So Matt, what's your recommendation on this? I mean,
I would guess.
They're here, they've heard us,
It's gonna take them a minimum of a couple of months to get, to get a firm. Every firm is busy, and then to get them down, they're gonna have to inspect it and then put together the NOI. I mean, if you gave them 3 months on this, that's, let's say, the first meeting of November, that's probably sufficient to file a notice of intent.
okay. All right, so,
You said you needed a stamp from an engineer?
Yeah. Yeah, for an NOI, the plans have to be wet stamped and signed by a PE or a PLS. But for a structure like that, they want to see a PE on that too.
all right, so,
Excuse me, we have to have a PL what?
Oh, sorry, I get stuck in my acronyms. PE is a professional engineer and a PLS is a professional land surveyor. So PE, a professional engineer, would be required as part of the NOI process. They would put together the survey plan showing the proposed work and the existing conditions.
And you have a list of engineers in the area, did you say?
Yep, yeah, we can send that out.
Okay.
all right. So Matt, just a continuance,
Sorry, I didn't look up which,
Do you
I didn't
think
go out that
November?
far.
yeah.
That would be, we're gonna have meetings November 11th and we're not gonna have November 25th, so.
November 11th.
November 11th. If we can get that email and address, or addresses, or email addresses, we'll get all this information out to you probably sometime next week in terms of what needs to be done.
All right, is there any other discussion from the,
Just so to clarify that the 11th of November, let's make sure that's not Veterans Day holiday.
That would be a Wednesday.
Well, that
Are
would-
they going to observe it on a Wednesday?
Does.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Oh, it
it's
is
just
actually,
weird.
November
if it is
11th is,
observed, that is,
Do they
it is
also observe it on that day or on a Monday?
I don't know. I don't know.
Let me check, I can check, give me a
I don't have
second,
it.
give me a second.
It just shows as Veterans Day, the 11th, Wednesday.
It does.
It is observed on Wednesday, November 11th by the state.
Wow, Kalina.
So
Kalina
maybe
for
we
the
want
win.
to do first meeting in December?
I would say the end of October, but
Well, the next one will be the 25th, you say we weren't having
yeah.
one?
We already said we weren't doing the
It's
25th.
Oh, right,
In
right.
November.
Thanksgiving.
What about the end of October, just in case they can get something?
Let's, yeah, okay, that would be the 28th.
The
Yeah.
28th.
October 28th?
Yeah.
That would be my suggestion.
all right, perhaps we have a motion to continue to October 28th.
I'll make the motion to continue to October 28th.
All right, a motion by Doc, do we have a second?
No, second.
Second by Kalina. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained. All right, so that carries 6-0.
So we're not.
So before we stop,
No meeting.
what we said about working with wetlands, every time you're working near a wetland, and if you don't know what it is, you can talk to Matt, he could explain it to you, or the ocean front or riverfront, you have to come and ask, can we do this, and have a plan. You can't just go in and do it.
And statewide, it's, if it's a water resource, it's a pretty good indication that it's at least gonna be on the state level and likely even more so on the local level. Okay.
And the commission does find contractors sometimes. Generally, I think they're pretty fair about it and not like in a first situation like this, but if there was another pop-up in town of a project, they probably would issue fines in that case. So we're very easy to get in touch with.
All right, so Matt, meeting minute, oh, I guess we're.
Yeah, meeting minutes, April 8th.
All right, we have meeting minutes from April 8th. Do I hear a motion to approve or any discussion to the contrary?
I have a comment.
Okay.
I honestly, I didn't get what page it was, I forgot to write it down. But talking about 68 Evergreen Street, there was a comment that the water that goes through the property is probably Stony Brook, but it's not. It goes to Stony Brook.
It says may eventually end up in Stony Brook.
Right, but
Do you want to?
Was there two? Yeah, take another look and just see if there was another.
it must have been another.
But we can note that anyways, and we'll take another look, and if there is something that says that, we'll change that.
Yeah.
Any other edits? All right, do we have a motion to approve with the edits as described?
So moved.
All right, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Megan. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
That's not what I saw.
Abstained?
Ruth, thank you. Have a good night.
Brian's abstained, he was absent.
I have the picture.
Can I ask you a question?
We're not in.
Has nothing to do with this. You look a lot like a fellow I went to school with. His name was Anthony. I can't help it. Yeah, Anthony Betancourt. Yes, that's no relation. Just, sorry. Couldn't help it. He was a good friend of mine. A Betancourt.
Have a good night, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Matt, updates, 18 Old Orchard Lane admin denial.
Yep, for 18 Old Orchard Lane, the property owner wanted to install 188 feet of chain link fence in the backyard to keep a dog contained. It did not meet the standards of administrative review, so I recommended that they produce a filing. And then I believe we have received an RDA filing from the applicant that will be at a future meeting on that.
And that was because of the setback for the fence, and it was precluded?
Correct. There's multiple things to it. Like the WPA, and I believe we have the same exact thing in KWPR, will exempt a fence in a yard area if it provides for wildlife passage. In this case, you're not going to provide for wildlife passage, and the commission wouldn't really want that because you don't want the wildlife getting into where the dog is, and you want to keep the dog in. So they couldn't meet that part of it, and then it was a setback issue. So it's considered, I think, a structure or construction project, and it says you can't have that within 50 feet of a resource area. And this was within a short distance to coastal bank, not coastal bank, inland bank.
All right, so you were tied on that one to what you could approve, and so
Yes.
you denied it. All right. All right, so 2830 40 Rabbit Road, admin approval?
Yes, and for the commission's, you know, I'm sure the commission has a memory of this, but we had a RDA filing that was essentially a partial denial from 28 and 30 Rabbit Road recently that did include a lot of tree removal that was supposedly for hazard, but we asked for a certified arborist and we didn't get one, and that essentially that they're not going forward at this point with that. What happened is the property owner, or a contractor for the property owner, asked me to come out and look at the property and go through sort of what they were thinking about doing, which was cleaning up, you know, downed and dead wood along the driveways to 28 and 30, removing a large limb or a tree that had fallen on, there's an old decrepit house at 40 Rabbit Road, as well as some hazard trees. So 40 Rabbit Road has a white pine growing about a foot, maybe 2 feet away from the foundation. That's now sizable. Again, there's nobody living in the structure. It's a decrepit structure, but it's something that will crush the whole thing. So I walked through the whole property, talked about what I felt I could approve through admin review and what would reach the threshold of needing further permitting. They filled out the admin review for the specifics that we talked about. Then we did a site visit again with a spray can of marking paint and an excessive note taker, and detailed note taker, not excessive, and went through the specifics of exactly what the permit was approving. So I approved at 40 Rabbit Road, the branch or tree that fell that was actively on the building, as well as the limbs beneath it that had fallen down, and that one tree that was very close to the structure. At 28 Rabbit Road, I approved some specific stuff along the driveway that could be problematic for plowing. There were a couple logs. Essentially, the way I went about it was, if you want to go through and clean the woods, that's a different filing. If you want to get rid of stuff that's recently fallen down, like that's obvious stuff that's just come down this winter without much ground contact, I don't know that much of that even needs a permit. You just have to be concerned about not causing erosion. But there were certain portions there that I said, stuff that's on the ground, ground contact, that's been rotting, that's providing habitat for a lot of stuff and providing a place for amphibians to go underneath and insects to go underneath. I'm not recommending any of that removal, I'm not going to approve any of that removal. So we went through and did really specific things up the driveway for that, that I felt really comfortable with, including a couple things that obviously would be problematic for the driveway. At 28 Rabbit Road, very similar, a couple things along the driveway like that. You know, a red maple that had looped down because of ice damage over the driveway, I said you can top it. You know, top it, let it regrow, that's fine. There was one white pine that's undermined along the driveway that is on the slope, that is easy to access, that I believe was fully dead, that I said that could come out through admin review. Around the house at 30 Rabbit Road, down by the water, I approved the removal of 3 mature white pine trees that are all within striking distance of that house. And that house is not something that's decrepit, and that, you know, I believe that one is actively used. So I feel comfortable with that. One of those trees I required the 6 to 10 feet of trunk to stay in place. And the others I said could be flush cut, but no ground disturbance. And very few other small, like, there was one thing behind the conservation post that I approved, which is a dead spruce tree. It's a dead, like, horticultural spruce tree that I said you can top it, but you have to leave the 6 to 10 feet of trunk in place. There was other work that they were asking about that was in the wetland, adjacent to Smelt Brook. There is a power line that runs through there. and there's vines growing up the power lines and dead trees hanging on them and everything, and I just said, it's in a wetland, I can't approve that through the admin review process, and I explained that you can either file something for that with the commission, or I said, really talk to Eversource. If it's something that's in their jurisdiction, they have exemptions to do that sort of work. If it comes down to that it's a private situation, then I could help them look into whether or not those exemptions would apply in that case. So I also specified that there was a requirement for a follow-up walkthrough with me after the work is done, just to confirm that everything was done the way it was. So I felt a little uncomfortable given that there's a sort of ongoing enforcement issue on the property regarding the mowing of the lawn area that hasn't been dealt with yet. But that didn't preclude me from approving something in admin review that has potential to be hazardous to people on the property. So that's what I did there. Long explanation for an admin review. If you have any questions, if you want to see any pictures or anything, I got it all.
All right, any questions for Matt? All right, Matt, how about updates on any ongoing projects?
I don't really have a ton on that. I'm still working on the NOI thing for invasive plants, and I may have to peel off Gray's Beach on its own because they had a contractor come out and do the mowing of it, and it'll be back. And I think, need to be able to treat that this fall. I'm talking to them about long-term maintenance because I don't think, once the Phragmites is gone, there are other species there that if left untouched are going to take over the beach. And I don't think it's appropriate for me or for the town really to just treat it as like a, hey, every year spray the beach with herbicide. So we're talking more about like once we get this thing set back to zero, how they can go about volunteers or a part-time position or something to get at that stuff before it gets established. But our NOI filing is getting more and more complex because a lot of our properties are in priority habitat, which means we have to go through MESA consultation and even amoeba filing for our invasives NOI. There is legislation being proposed right now that would change the Wetlands Protection Act and some of the other state legislation to allow invasive plant treatment within certain guidelines without needing a filing, which I don't know how quickly that could happen. It's the state, so it's often very slow, but that's why I'm thinking maybe I just pull the Grays Beach out and file that separately as a notice of intent to make sure that that can get done. There's no rush on the rest of it. Other than that, we continue just working on 1,000 different projects and trying to bring benefit to all of the ecology and people of Kingston.
It's good work, Matt.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And Georgia. All right, so it looks like that's it, right?
Yeah.
Jim, just a quick question.
Yep.
I didn't write, 106 Elm continued to what?
September 9th.
Thanks.
Yes. All right, so the next meeting will be held on August 26th, 2026, starting at 6:30 p.m. The time is now 8:41. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? We have a motion by Megan. Do I hear a second? Second by Brian. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? All right. Carries 6-0.